Hello and welcome to Bluejay Business News. Today I'm joined by Rob Edwards, who's Executive Chairman of Bluejay Mining. Bluejay listed in London on the AIM market, a ticker of JAY, and a market capitalisation of around £24 million sterling. Rob, welcome on the show. You've just announced a fundraise that will go towards developing the 100% owned project at Hammaslahti. Tell us a bit about the project, what you're going to use the money for, and why you're doing it now.
Back in the end of 2022, we announced a new strategy and a new view of what the assets that we thought could drive shareholder value into the current year and beyond. Hammaslahti was one of those projects. It's a walk-up project on a prior mine site in Finland, an extremely prospective belt which hosts VMS deposits. Hammaslahti was an operating mine, so we've got proof of concept that it's well mineralized. And also it hosted two very interesting holes that were drilled in 2015 by prior management of Bluejay before it was vended into Bluejay, which hit some great intersections of copper, zinc, gold, and silver as well. We aim to replicate those holes. We have been drilling this year already. Those holes are, those cores look very good. They're all mineralized, and we aim to assay those holes with some of the proceeds that we raised yesterday from our new and existing shareholders, which participated in the financing.
Okay, so interesting mineralogy, and as you say, a proven mine. Tell us how the development of Hammaslahti is in line with the new Bluejay strategy, which was outlined in the chairman's review earlier this year.
Well, we knew we had to be very careful with capital. We knew that every dollar that we raised and spent had to do something that created an asset base, preferably in base metals within our varied portfolio in Finland and Greenland. Kangerluarsuk in Greenland was one of the projects we wanted to advance. Hammaslahti was the other. Given markets and given risk-reward ratio, we'd far prefer to concentrate on Hammaslahti right now. This isn't a switch-in strategy. This is very much part of pursuing our strategy. And this is around proving that Hammaslahti could potentially be a mine once again, and also expanding our portfolio along that belt.
You've mentioned in statements the unforeseen weather conditions that led to the postponement of the Kangerluarsuk exploration campaign. It sounds like they were extremely unfortunate. Can you give us some details on what the weather conditions were like? What's the details?
Well, unfortunately, the weather details meant that there's still thick pack ice in the Black Angel and Kangerluarsuk fjords. We've gone back and looked at the data. We can't go back, we can't find another event like this on record. It's highly unusual. It would mean that if we wanted to deploy the exploration program in the way that we wanted to do it, we would have to spend additional money, potentially hiring a tug, heli-lifting more equipment onto site. We think that generally in Greenland what we're seeing is we're going to see later starts to exploration seasons, but later finishes. But at this point in time, it was deemed too risky, and there was no guarantees that we'd be able to complete what we wanted to complete in the time and budget that we'd originally forecast.
Bluejay's got a very strong portfolio of assets to explore in Greenland and Finland. I mean, how does the weather in those countries affect your ability to develop the projects?
Well, usually we have a 4 to 5 month exploration season, realistically. So 1 month either side of deployment and 3 months of work. When we operated the Disco joint venture, the maiden season last year at Disco Island, which is pretty much the same, very similar location to Kangerluarsuk, we operated for 3 months continuously. We were interrupted by fog and rain, but that can be the same in anywhere in the world. But we know that, historically, if you go back, there have been mining operations in Greenland that have shipped freighters of concentrate out of Black Angel for many years. You can operate there, but the exploration season is quite short, and it is quite far north. The further south you come, obviously, the more that risk is lower, and the further north you are, the risk is higher.
You've also mentioned that your joint venture partner, Cobalt, which as many of us know is the investment vehicle for some very well-known American investors and tech giants, Cobalt has gathered more data on the Disco Nuarsak project in Greenland. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Disco remains a fantastic opportunity for us. We entered into an agreement which allocated capital over a 3-year period to result specifically in some holes being drilled in some of the targets. The first year's program was very extensive. There is a large amount of data gathered. That data has now been almost, the assessment period of that data is almost completed. There is a contractual obligation on the Cobalt's behalf to complete a drilling program by December 2024. And we'll see how that goes. If that drilling program isn't completed, then control reverts back to us. But there's nothing that we've seen so far that would suggest that our original thesis that this is a nickel cobalt PGM rich district of scale, nothing that we've seen so far would alter our view at this stage.
Thanks for updating us on more recent announcements, but we like news flow in the small cap market. So what can we expect to see in the coming months from Bluejay? Just give us some hints about the headlines we should be looking out for.
Being a junior company in the exploration space in today's world, in today's market, is quite high risk. There's not a river of capital available for stories like us or anyone else. We have to prove that we have assets of merit. We also have to be smarter about who we align ourselves with. So we've taken a very clear strategic decision to advance conversations with one or two key partners who are more strategic in their nature. They're more longer term in their nature. They're less driven by day-to-day movements in macro events around the world. They're less liquidity constrained.
Rob, thank you very much for that update. That was Rob Edwards, Executive Chairman of Bluejay, giving us a very full explanation of where the company is at the moment and what we can expect in the future. That's it for this edition of Bluejay Business News. Thanks for watching.